So I believe we are live. Let me just double check in the group.
Yay! Exciting. Hi, everybody.
I love this. Yeah, there we go. I can see us.
Yay.
All right. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for your patience. I'm a couple of minutes late. I would love to introduce the beautiful Stephanie Pinto and her dog to our live interview this morning. I just said to her in a little quick pre-chat, I love it that it's not always just my dog who's barking and being annoying in the background. Not saying your dog is annoying, but it's just so beautiful to have that. It's live. It's just what life is all about, and we'll be talking a lot about that today. So before I get Stephanie to do a quick introduction for us, I want to actually quickly share with you how I found her. And the way I found her is Stephanie, as I said in my little intro already, works with emotional intelligence. She works with children, or I should say with the parents to help their children as well. We'll talk a little bit about more of that during the interview, how you work with your clients. And you know, being a parent, being a single parent who has lost her partner, so dealing with kids who've lost their dad, it really spoke to me. And as we go along, we have a chat about a few things today, but that's the way I actually came across your work, and I absolutely love what you do. So Stephanie, without further ado, would you like to share a few words about yourself with our audience? Welcome.
Thank you. First off, thank you so much for having me. I'm really grateful.
Thanks for being here.
I know, I'm just so happy to kind of be here and talk a little bit about what I know, and hopefully it kind of resonates with everyone and gives them a little bit of insight into maybe a different way of seeing things. So yes, that's right. I'm an emotional intelligence coach, and I work with parents. So I'm basically, you know, working with parents to create what I like to call an emotionally intelligent family culture, which kind of just means that
in itself is already like, oh.
I know it's the stuff that I guess like I didn't get taught when I was younger. And it wasn't taught in school, but it was just, you know, how we can manage. Literally the short definition I go by is managing yourself and your emotions, and it is about kind of knowing that our kids and ourselves, we have emotions. They are not messy, they are not fluffy, they are not a waste of time. They are not to be swept under the rug, because emotions are actually highly intelligent assessments of our interpersonal functioning. So they are telling us stuff.
That's a mouthful. That in itself, I know you say that every day, but can you just say that again? Emotions are actually...
They are highly intelligent assessments of our interpersonal functioning. So we got to listen.
I love it.
Right? And it took me a long time. I was not, as a kid, I was not in touch with my emotions, didn't really talk about them. It wasn't that they were bad or that we didn't, or that they were squashed or anything by my parents. Like I say to people, I had a great childhood. My parents stayed together. I'm lucky. I was able to go to uni. Everything on the surface was really fine. But for some reason, which now in hindsight, I know if I reflect, I developed a strong anxiety that made me faint out cold on the floor when I was really nervous and overwhelmed in situations. So you don't have to have trauma or something happen for you to not be able to be resilient or emotionally intelligent. So I want to teach. That's what I've been doing for the past couple of years, is really focusing on emotions and behavior with our kids and how parents can help them. But for the last 10 years before that, I was a speech pathologist. So I worked with families and kids around language communication. But I did find that I was not so much working on language and communication as much as like managing emotions and helping parents with challenging behaviors, all of that stuff. So it just fed in.
I just want to jump in here quickly and say, you know, I'm really grateful that you share that there was no obvious reason for you and you had a happy childhood and all that, because so often people, when they show certain behavior like anxiety, for example, and that's quite a common behavior or emotion, they think there's something wrong with them, or there must be like a huge trigger or something like that. And it's actually not always, you know, like my little one is dealing with a little bit of anxiety, and he had that even before Rob passed. So I don't want to just put it down to, oh, you know, he lost his dad and fair enough. Yes, it did highlight it a little bit more in certain areas, and I get that. But it's all about, I'd say, neutralizing and normalizing things and not making it such a big thing, and to acknowledge what's going on so you can actually find a solution. And you know, I love that your background is speech pathology. I believe that there's often, especially with speech, with expression, there's also a lot of emotional underlay. So it's like not putting that down in any way, but it's almost like you become almost like a family counselor when you work with that. Is that right?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And that's like, that's literally the first step, or like when we delve into emotional intelligence, when I coach families, I say we've got to talk about this stuff, because so many of us, like, we, you know, particularly for men, I'll say, in my experience, men say, yeah, no, we didn't talk about emotions when I was younger. It was just get over it, come on, be a good boy, be strong, be brave. Like, it wasn't just okay to talk about emotions. And
that's good boy already. Wow.
Yeah, and good girl.
I really
and
don't
girls
like it when people say that.
Yeah, girls, you know, be quiet, or kids are supposed to be seen, not heard, or be a good girl and be polite, and be people pleaser, and all that stuff. But it doesn't allow us to put value into emotions, and you know, even sometimes I'm bloody human. I'll catch myself saying to my kids, like, come on, it's not that bad. Like, it's not that bad. It's just a little scratch. But really, that's me not validating their emotions. Like, to kids, you know, a bump or a scratch or something to a young child is a big emotional event, and they get really upset, and it's up to us to be able to validate that and say, wow, yeah, I can see that. That's pretty upsetting. I'd be upset if that happened to me too. So you know, it's okay. Yes, it's not that whole invalidating, like, just get over it, just move on, it's not a big deal, that kind of thing.
It's such a learned behavior often for parents or adults to brush things off and actually not hear them. I didn't even share this with you, Stephanie. I saw in another group, I'm going through a personal development journey myself at the moment. It's like a 14-day course, and I've shared a little bit about that already. But in that group, one person has shared such a beautiful post, and I thought of you straight away. I thought Stephanie would so love this. And it was a photo of like a 16-year-old girl with her 7-year-old sister, and the 7-year-old sister was laying on top of her. And
yes, I did see
that. Just holding her. Did you see that?
Yes, I did.
Oh my God. And it was
rug.
all about just acknowledging the emotion. And I just, oh my God, I could have cried just reading it. I thought, how beautiful is that if we as adults could learn that, to hold space for our kids when they have strong emotions coming up, even if they might not be strong for us, but acknowledging that they're strong for them and hold space for that. It's just beautiful.
That's so hard.
Powerful.
Oh, I know. How hard is that for us to do, though? Because we are, as the adults, we're busy. We have things to do. We know, or we think, you know, that's not a big deal. It's not a, you know, it's a little problem or something. But it's so hard. It makes it hard for us to actually put ourselves and our emotions and our busy life aside and hold space for our kids and be like, okay, you can sit on me and cry. You can hate the world for a bit. You can stomp and punch a pillow. Like, just letting that emotion, and energy, emotions are energy in motion, right? So we've got to let that out somehow. How are we going to help our kids to move through, particularly these strong, really difficult or unpleasant, uncomfortable emotions like grief? How are we going to do that if we can't even hold space and let them experience that? Like, you know, otherwise we're telling them to, it's fine, get on with it, get to school, we're busy, we're running late. Like, that's not giving our kids the skills to problem solve and move through emotions or deal with them. It's telling them to squash it down, and then later in a few years it'll pop back up.
So. Exactly. Everything that's not dealt with, you know, for me, it's always like, what was that saying? I read that somewhere once. Emotions, if you don't let emotions live, they never die. And I thought, wow, that's quite powerful, actually. You know, it really stays with you. And how poignant is that, and particularly in our group. Stephanie, before we go a little bit further into that, because I just love this conversation already, I want to tell our audience a little bit about you as well in terms of your background. Can you tell us how you actually got into the training that you did and what made you get to the point what you offer now?
Yeah, well, that's right. I was
like that curve from
that. It was a
into
it was a bit of a curve, wasn't it? I kind of, as I reflect more and more, I see how it was such a natural progression, but like a year ago, I would have said, oh, I just like got burnt out and I did something different. But yes, I was a speech pathologist for 10 years. And I did find that, you know, over the last few years, I was finding that families needed that support to help their kids manage these big emotions. Kids were not able, like, kids are not able to self-regulate. I don't even talk about self-regulation anymore. I talk about co-regulation, right? Because
Ooh, I
our
love that.
kids,
That word in itself is quite powerful.
I know it drops the pressure and
Yeah.
just shift your expectations, because
Mm.
particularly for boys, but for all kids, they're not cognitively fully developed till their mid-20s. Like, what? That blows my mind, because I do a lot of reading and research into
Mine too.
cognitive development and all that brain development stuff for kids. And I, you know, just coming back to that fact, it's something I tell every family I coach. I go, do you know, like, keep this in the forefront of your mind. Kids are not fully developed till their mid-20s. So we need to adjust our expectations when we think, why are our kids, why is this behavior coming up? Why are they so anxious? Or why, you know, why is this happening? Maybe because he's 5 or because he's 10 or 15, like they are going anyway. So I found I was doing a lot of that support with families around challenging behaviors, what behaviors meant, and what was kind of underlying them, and how to then manage them a little bit easier, and teach our kids about emotions and anxiety and grief and all that, those big emotions. And I did find in the last couple of years I was getting burnt out as a speech pathologist, just because of the dynamic I was working with and the service model that we were doing. I was kind of out on the road all day doing therapy at the home or the school. So I had discovered emotional intelligence just online, and I was reading about it and buying books and researching and everything. And I was using it with my kids and my husband and just talking about it because it was so interesting to me. And because I have that pediatric background, I was easily able to kind of translate it into kids' language and concept. And because emotional intelligence is huge in the corporate world for adults, like it's now one of the top
I can only
10.
imagine.
It's one of the top 10 sought after skills in job interviews with employers. They'll say, how are you emotionally intelligent, and how can you sort of show us? So I thought, no, why aren't we teaching this to our kids? Like, why aren't we giving these skills to our kids so that they can manage themselves, manage their emotions, make good decisions, and build confidence and be resilient? So I was like, boom, that just hit me. And I got certified as an emotional intelligence coach. I just started sort of spreading the word, putting out videos on it on YouTube. I made a blog on my website, and I have a meetup group where I get parents every month to let's talk about it.
I went to a recent one, so I really like that. Just hanging out with other parents and seeing, you know, like even in this group here, it's always like about this concept of realizing that you're not alone in this. You know, so often we feel like, whether that be, you know, emotional intelligence with our kids and parenting, or whether that be grief, we so often feel like that we're all alone in this. We're the only ones who have to deal with that, and we are not. You know, it's really beautiful that you put that together, that meetup group. I felt really quite good in there myself, going like, oh, you know, there are others who are dealing with that, and we all have our different story with our kids, with our loss. We all have our individual and unique story, but there is this underlying, we are not alone in this. And I really think this message is quite important to spread. So and by the way, before we get to that, I will ask Stephanie at the end of the interview to share her links, and you know, you can please also share the links to your groups if people want to join. I'd be more than happy for you to link people who feel drawn to that and want to learn more about what you do, or come to one of your meetups. We'll be sharing all those links afterwards, after this interview. I know Stephanie's got a call straight after, so bear with her. There will be links later on this afternoon, but please continue. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. That would be awesome. I think just however we can spread and share the information, because information is power. Like it's empowering to think, oh my God, I'm not alone. Like, you know, you feel sometimes so alone with your own journey, and particularly with grief. It's such a heavy, can be consuming emotion, right? And like I said, emotions are energy in motion. We've got to somehow shift it or move it, or allow it to be, allow it to sit, but find that, particularly with our kids, I think, give them that growth mindset of, how can we now move through this so it's not, I mean, it's going to impact our life, right? No doubt about it. But how can we continue to, you know, have a functional, life day to day, where we still go to school, adults still
Yeah.
go to work, we still
Yeah.
build relationships and connect with people, because this stuff, it's emotions can either kind of just like flood you, and I like,
Mm.
you've been there when you have those days where just everything kind of gets on top of you and you think,
Yeah.
stuff this, why do I even
Oh,
bother?
I'm always fine. Put everything under control. Sorry.
Oh, I love that. And I think
Oh,
for particularly for our kids, like, don't we want to give them the skills and them the knowledge and the power so that they can get through some of this stuff on their own, because they are going to grow up, they are going to be away at school on their own without us.
yeah.
We've got to build, like, when I talk about that co-regulation, it's helping our
Yeah.
kids be aware of their emotions, because some kids are not, even some adults, like, you hit your head hits a pillow at the end of the day and you're like, oh my God, what did I even do? So busy, but
Yeah.
you're not aware or conscious. So being aware of their emotions and actually being able to feel it in their body, because you can feel, once you're more
Yeah.
aware of the feelings and the emotions, you can get kids to think, oh, I'm feeling a bit buzzy, I'm feeling a bit hot or a bit wriggly, or whatever those
Yeah.
words are, those feeling, and they
Yeah.
can connect it to the emotion. Oh, I think that means I'm
Yeah.
a bit nervous, or I'm feeling a bit
Oh,
sad
wow.
today. What can I
You
do?
know what? You know what's really interesting? I have to say this. Like, this is all new to me as well. Some of the things that you're saying here, and I had never. I have to be honest here. I had never made the distinction between emotion and feelings, which is really interesting. But as soon as you said it, I'm like, oh my God, of course. Here's the emotion and what you actually feel about that. For me, that was somehow the same thing, and it sort of is, but isn't. And I'm quite glad that you distinguish here, because I feel, that's quite an important thing to do. And for me, what I want to highlight and also talk a little bit more with you about and go a little bit deeper for us all to take something away here is the idea, the concept that you shared with us already about co-regulating. And it is so powerful to actually say that we have to find a way through that. So I want to share something here, because I feel that really relates to that. When Rob passed, my husband passed, it was halfway through the school year, and even worse, we had the funeral 4 days before the first Holy Communion of my little one. So 4 days after the funeral, I walked Jed down the aisle to his first Holy Communion, and I remember the priest going like, may all the parents get up and walk their children. And I'm like, just hearing that parents, because parents is usually a word that is used in plural and not singular. And I stood up and I walked out, and I had tears running down my cheeks the whole way through. I so tried to hold it together for Jed, but I just couldn't. I was just so emotional, and I had this massive, I felt his absence so massively. I could feel he was around us, but it was just not the same. And I was just bawling. Like, I literally held myself together to walk him up there while tears were running down. And I knew the whole town was there. We live in a small town. Everybody knew. I felt like all eyes were on me, and they probably weren't. They probably were all on their kids, but I felt everybody knew, everybody was watching us. And as soon as I made it to the way back, I walked straight out the church, let Jed go with his godfather, and I was just bawling. I was such a mess. So the reason why I'm sharing this here is we got through this thing where they were at school, they were not, they were at school, they were not. They were so supported at school. I have to say it was really, really beautiful the way they were supported at school, how everybody reached out and also asked me, what do they need? How can we help? Should we ask them about it? Should we not? And I loved that question, because I have two sons. They were only 10 and 8 when they lost their dad. And one of them wanted to be asked all the time. He wanted to be able to talk about it. He wanted that to be acknowledged. And the other one did not want to talk about it. My little one is Mr. Happy. So when something that big and that sad happened to him, he's like, close book, do not talk to me about that. He just wanted to hear happy things. He just wanted to share happy things. And so I'm putting that out there because I really want to talk a little bit more about this whole idea of co-regulating. And how do you do that when you have two sons that are so different, or two children, or 3 or 4? Like, how do you even attempt to help them through these, because this is so heavy for someone so little. And yeah, one more thing I want to say before I hand this over to you, Stephanie, because I'd really love to hear what you've got to say to that. What I learned through my own experience with, you know, guiding my kids through that is that there is a shift after the 7-year mark where it is a lot harder to process emotions like that than before 7. There is, I can't remember the exact thing, I need to find it out again, but it was really quite apparent to me where I'm like, wow, yes, I have noticed that kids under 7 deal with it in a different way. They process it easier. I know that some people might go like, no, my kid is only 3 and he was shattered, but there is a difference in the way their brain processes emotions. So I'm not really sure, but yeah, so my kids were just past that. They were 8 and 10, and there was but anyway, I'd really love to hand that back to you and go like, how do you even attempt to co-regulate something that is so heavy with kids that are so different in their way they process and understand on emotions?
And gosh, I can't imagine the difficulty with, 1, you're going through your own grief, and 2, trying to support your kids going through theirs, right? And in terms of emotional intelligence and managing emotions and helping kids, we start with ourselves, right? We need to take care of ourselves. We need to have our own self-awareness and manage our own emotions, which is bloody hard to do. And then we can then it allows us to hold space for our kids and teach and model with them how they can get through it too. So if we are, rightly so, a mess and can't, you know, just absolutely struggling to deal with things, it's going to make it that much harder for us to guide our kids, because our kids, yes, they learn by us teaching and talking to them in conversations, but the best way that they learn is through us watching us, because we are modeling our behavior all the time, and that's hard to do. So, you know, as much as we can be honest and open with our kids, and you know, talking about labeling our feelings, saying, I'm feeling really sad today, I'm having a bad day, I'm really upset. Let your kids, like, people think I want to shelter my kids or protect them, and you know, try and just be there for them, but that's not teaching your kids that everyone feels emotion. It's really normal to be upset. It's okay to feel really sad and not want to do this or do that. You know, we need to teach our kids that us as parents, we're not invincible, because then that's showing them that, you know, we need to be strong, we need to be tough, we need to be brave, we don't show emotion. No, like I'm telling my kids some days, I'm saying, guys, I'm really I'm upset today, or I'm not having a great day. I need 5 minutes on the couch with a cup of tea, and then I can come help you with your whatever it is. Like, I'm telling my kids that it's okay. And I say, it's all right, I'm just not the best today, but give me 10 minutes and I'm sure I'll be okay again. I need time. I need a cup of tea or a hug. Like,
so beautiful to tell them what you actually need and why.
Yes, because then that's teaching
powerful.
them 100%. It's modeling to them that yes, we can feel those negative or uncomfortable emotions, that's okay. 3, I know a little bit about what I need to help me feel okay again. And sometimes I need time and I don't need to be rushed about it. Sometimes I want to be with them, sometimes I don't. Like, we can't force our kids to, you know, always talk, always be open, always come and cuddle. Sometimes they need time on their own to process things or to just be quiet with themselves. We don't have to, you know, push them to connect or open up or talk. But you know, on the other hand of that, when you were saying about your kids sort of experienced it differently, and I think that will happen with all kids and all adults. We go through grief differently, don't we?
For sure.
But a really interesting sort of I guess fact about the brain and about memories is that we have 2 different types of memories, these implicit memories and explicit memories, right? And so the implicit memories are ones that we have tucked away, stored in our brain, of events or experiences that have happened, but we are they're sort of unconscious and we just have them there. So it's almost like when you know, we know how to walk or we know how to ride a bike, because it's so automatic. It's an implicit memory that we just have done it so
Yeah.
many times, or we know it, so it's easy. The explicit memories are those ones that we actively recall, like facts or dates or how to do something tricky, but we can work it out. So we've got those two different memories, right?
Yeah.
And the
I
interesting
didn't know that.
yeah,
There
the
you go. Learn
interesting
something
thing
new.
is that with kids, generally, the two hemispheres of their brains, we know we've got language in the left, language is and logic and all that
Yeah.
those sort of parts of the brain, and in the right, it's more emotional and experiential and behavior. Their brains are not integrated like ours are, so that means they are disintegrated in a way, which means they're a bit clunky and they don't flow smoothly, and things are a bit more difficult for them, managing emotions, talking about them and stuff like that. So with these implicit memories, we need to be able to, it's kind of like when you see behaviors or things come up in kids, or fears about something, and you think, where did you get that fear from? Or why are you acting like this? But it can be often because they've got this implicit, unconscious memory of the trauma or something that's happened that's affected them. And we need to bring that out into the open and shine the light of understanding on it, so that it's more explicit and they can talk about it and they can understand it and they can process it, because that helps them make sense of what happened. So we have to talk to our kids about how they're feeling, what happened. It's age appropriate. You don't have to speak about massive trauma really openly and dig questions, but it's almost like helping your kids put words to, or put a story together about something difficult that happened, so that they now understand it a bit better, and they understand why they feel this way, or why they've got this fear, or why they're acting that way. So it brings it up, because otherwise it's squashed down. It's unconscious, but it'll come out as a behavior, or a picking friends at school, or a not wanting to go to grandma's house or something like that. And you think, what's happened? So it's helping our kids to label their emotions. So that's building their emotional vocab. It's
I love that.
talking about what happened, and just putting a nice, like a little story to it. So, wow, I noticed that this happened last month and at school, and it seems like you were really upset at the time, and maybe you got in trouble for it, but then what happened, we talk about it, and we just shine that light of understanding on it to help our kids process it and make sense of it, and then they are more able to kind of move on and understand it, and it doesn't sit like a rock inside them. Does that make sense?
I really love what you've just shared, Stephanie, because for me it's like that, creating space for them to share. But also, that is a really big one for me. I had to learn that a lot with my little one, to give them space and time before they are able to process it and come out with it. My little one, I always called him like my little volcano. There was like a lot of stuff going in, and then I could feel it brewing. I had no idea what was going on and when he would come, but at some stage he would erupt and it would all come out, and it would be about something that happened 3 months ago, literally, not exaggerating. And I'm like, whoa. So I had to learn, that was a huge thing for me as a parent, where I'm Virgo, facts, action, let's do this, and I'm like, okay, he needs time. Oh my God, how am I going to do this? How am I going to be so patient? It's like, okay, lots of Zen, lots of lots of just letting it happen. And that was big for me. So I feel that for parents, that's such a huge learning curve to also learn how to read what your kids need, and that they are different, and that there might be different stages, and one wants to talk about it straight away, like me, and the other one is just give me time. And I have learned to, when he stomps off and tries to make every stomp as hard and as loud as possible to make the point, I get that. I've been exactly like that in my childhood. I'm looking at him going like, oh my God, that's me when I was little. He didn't even see me back then, but he still learned that behavior, although I don't do that anymore nowadays. I do not stomp. It's just so funny. Not funny, but you know what I mean. When I watch him stomp down the stairs, I'm like, oh, that's me. I should really understand that. And I do, now that I'm aware of it. And I just leave him down there for a little bit, not, to let him stir and to make things worse, but because I realize that if I don't give him the space, he just completely blocks me and it takes a lot longer. So I really had to learn to sit in that and let him sit in it. And that was the hardest thing for me as a parent, because my gut instinct, my natural motherhood instinct, I'm a mama bear. I just want to go downstairs and hug him. And he can't accept that hug straight away. He so needs it, but he needs time to accept it. So for me, that was a huge learning. I just want to quickly read this. Suzanne, thank you so much for watching. She said good points to just be honest about how we are actually feeling and let it out. Yeah, it's exactly that, to keep that communication open between our kids and to share that with them and to say it's okay to not be okay, you know. I shared this many times in various interviews here in the group and outside of the group, where I had a nervous breakdown about a month after Rob passed, when all this, you know, funeral and the Holy Communion, everything was over. I melted down in my kitchen here, screaming my lungs out, and it was horrible. It was scary for me. It was like the most out of body experience I've ever imagined. It was like I was watching myself when it happened and I couldn't stop it. And the boys were upstairs, and when it was all over, I went upstairs because I'm like, oh my God, you know, like I literally, with my background, I saw them lying on a couch with a counsellor already, thinking, oh, the damage that I've done here. And it was really like judgment. And then I'm like, no, you have to deal with this right now, you know. And I walked upstairs and my little one was hiding under the blanket, and I asked him straight up, I said, were you scared? And he said, yeah. And I said, so was I. I was really scared, because it was like I explained to them what happened. And the weirdest thing is, almost like, it really moved me to tears so much, because I was judging myself so badly for letting that happen. I was so powerless in that moment. I could have not stopped it, but I judged myself as a mom for not having my shit together, excuse my French here. And the next day, my older one had a meltdown and he was screaming on the floor in the kitchen. And I was like, oh my God, I just could not believe that, how much he needed to let that out.
Yeah.
And how sad it was, how it happened, but how good it was for him to be able to just scream it out. I'm not saying it was the healthiest way, but often there is no healthy way in grief, you know, and it was raw, and it was, it was really quite remarkable actually that happened the next day. And that, because I had talked through them, through it with them, I could explain to my little one the next day that it wasn't directed against him. And I said, see what happened to me yesterday? What just happened with Flynn was not directed against you.
Yeah.
It's fear, it's pain, it's grief. That is raw and heavy emotion. And sometimes it comes out in really unhealthy and raw ways, but it was not directed at you. And I, you know, would sit with the one and hug him till he was okay. And then I would sit with the other one and hug him. And we all sat there in this massive sadness, but it was so bonding, if that makes sense. There was this really unspoken allowing to be like that and just to let it out. And that was super powerful, sad, but really powerful, and sort of healthy in a way as well, in the weirdest, bizarre way. So yeah,
I think 100%. I think that's healing, isn't it? Because it's letting what our mind and body is so connected. We feel the rush of emotion, like cortisol, adrenaline, all those neurochemicals are in our body. When we have such strong emotion and grief and things like that, it needs to come out come out somehow. And I would argue that that's not an unhealthy way in such a massive moment of grief. People, you know, if it happened out in the shopping center, people would judge, right? No questions asked.
Probably,
and that's unfortunate that humans are, you know, we are judgmental creatures. But at home, it's a safe space where we know we can just be ourselves, let everything out. We will still be accepted by mom and by, you know, everyone else. And I think that's, like, in a way, that's, I'm sure in the moment it wasn't, but it's beautiful that you let that happen. You went straight up to the kids. Even like it's never too late to, at some point later. And I say to parents when they like shout and flip their lid or smack their kids or whatever, and they regret it, I say it's never too late to go to your kids and say, hey buddy, I really shouldn't have done that, or this is why I did it, or just explain if you need to. I don't think you did, but for other situations, apologize, say, I shouldn't have done that, I shouldn't have hit you or smacked you or whatever. But just saying to the boys, that's what happened, and that's how I was. It wasn't directed at you. And they would have seen that emotion passed and didn't sit with you, and then you were okay, so to speak, later on. So it's teaching our kids that emotions come and go, and that's like, pressure off. Like, I know I'm going to feel like this sometimes, but it won't last. And I saw that with mum, saw that with my brother, and look, we're okay again. So it's not something that is like
it's
permanent.
so beautiful that you say that, because it's really that end result, we are okay again. That was so important, because I had quite a few moments over the past 2 years where it just, where it bubbled and it just burst, and then I was like, oh my God, I did it again. And then you've got this self-judgment, and then I go through that with the kids. And now, like, when I say to my kids, like, I'm so sorry, like, I just can't believe that I let it come to that stage again. But I just, I didn't mean to. And I really talked to them about what brought it on, what bubbled up. And, when I burst, I really try to explain it to them and sit with them when it happens. And my older one mostly says to me now, it's like, Mom, it's okay. You can have a bad day too. I'm like, okay. Oh my God. He's only 12 and he's got...
There you go. Like, isn't that powerful?
I've learned a lot, and it's beautiful. I can't say enough how important it is to actually talk about what's going on as a parent. It was a really huge and hard learning curve for me, as in I have got such high expectations of myself that I often put that on my kids as well.
Yeah.
And once I realized that by what I'm doing to always try to be perfect, and we're human, like, we are definitely not perfect. And the more I realized how important it is not to pretend I'm perfect, not to hide away when I'm crying, not to try to hold my stuff together. There is a balancing act for parents, I wouldn't want to run around bawling my eyes out the whole time when I'm going through stuff. But it's also that I don't constantly have to hide away when I do. So for me, I really found a healthy balance when to let it out and when not. And sometimes you just can't control it either, and that's fine too. Yet to explain to them what's going on, and not tell them, oh, I'm fine, because that creates a mismatch in their understanding what's fine, what's not. Because, well, no, I'm not fine. I've just been going through stuff, and there were a lot of tears, and that's why. And then explaining to them, and then it's like, oh, okay. But what happened with that is I give them the subconscious permission to be okay with crying, in particular having 2 boys. I don't want to raise them going like, boys don't cry.
I know. And you're so right. And on that, like with boys particularly, they, because of the way their brain has developed and with their hormones and things like that, they will often channel emotions straight into the physical part of their brain, the acting out, the motor part, whereas girls tend to feel an emotion and channel it to the language centers in their brain. So girls we will talk about it and debrief, and boys, it goes into their body, they'll act it out, they'll be aggressive, or they'll punch, or they'll do something, because that's the way they biologically are kind of wired to really deal with massive emotions. So to tell our boys, that's okay. Like, it's okay to be sad. It's okay to be frustrated. It's okay to hate the world. I'm here basically holding that space for you, because this is hard and it's shit. And I will be here. This is your safe space. I will be here for you to express that. But again,
it's so powerful to say that I'm your safe space, I hold space for you, whatever you have.
And I think that means it's almost a little bit more powerful to help boys to put words and communication to what they're feeling, for them to express it, because it is natural for them to either push it down or just to express it physically. So we want to help them to put a story, telling stories in a way is so powerful to help our kids deal with emotions and what's going on inside. So we can say to them, look, we lost someone we love so much, and then we had remember the funeral, that was really tough and everyone was really sad. It was a beautiful day, and whatever happened, afterwards, you know, we're going to feel sad for a while. We might have look at some photos. We might talk, you know, we can talk about great memories and things. But remember when, you know, this happened a little bit later and we found a bit of joy and we were able to laugh again. We'll still miss him or her. It's almost like helping your child to put that story and that progression with their language to what happened so that they can process it.
And integrate it into their timeline as part of what happened, you know, not try to take it out or anything.
It's allowing them to process it in their brain, to put some understanding and meaning to it so that they can I talk about that, shining that light of understanding, so they go, oh, like that is what happened and that is how I felt. And I see that I've gotten through that, even though it was tough. And, you know, we know that resilience is built with adversity. You need adversity to build resilience in kids. We can't be a snowplow parent and get everything potentially tricky or difficult out the way. We have to let our kids, to an extent, and sometimes we can't control it. We've got to let our kids go through these really tough times. So it might be something at school, or it might be a friendship breakdown, or it might be the loss of someone in their family. But allowing our kids, but supporting them going through that is what builds their resilience, because they can look back at a point and think, oh, I got through that, and I have these people who helped me, and I have these strengths inside me that I can call on, and I know who's there that can support me. Like, it's giving them all that knowledge and that confidence and resilience to think, oh, well, that was really tough, but I got through it, and I know who I can count on. I know who's around me, and I know what strengths I have inside. So it's actually that's a core kind of, I've done a lot of resilience training, and it's really the fact that we have to support our kids through it and highlight those areas and shine that light on them, so that they go, oh, well, yeah, I did get through that. It was tough. It was crap. And I had those breakdowns, but look now where I am. I've been able to use these things, these strengths inside of me that have helped me through it. So it's really powerful stuff.
I find it's so beautiful, Stephanie. I'm so grateful that you shared all of that with us, because I think in a nutshell, the most important stuff is that or for me, the most important learning curve as a parent was to not pretend that everything's fine, everything's perfect, everything was easy, because it's not. Life has got curveballs, and life has got speed bumps, and life has got adversity, and that's what helps us grow. So I think it's a really, really beautiful tool that I'm taking away from this talk here, to link that for my kids. And that's, I think, a really beautiful way to summarize that, to link that adversity is actually building strength and resilience. And you know, I talk in my courses a lot about the hidden gifts in adversity. And for me, one of the biggest hidden gifts was certainly my strength. You know, I felt my strength before, yet it literally just completely blew out of proportion after Rob passed. There was a strength within me that I could constantly tap into that literally blew me away. And I have received that with so much gratitude. And I'm using it to help others. You know, it's just something where I'm like, wow, this is a gift, and I do something with it. And it's actually really beautiful to see that and to feel that. So if you're okay with that, I want to summarize what are your 3 or 5 most amazing and important points that you would like to leave our audience with. If you could summarize that, maybe I would really love to wrap that up a little bit for people to have a doggy bag full of tools.
Yes, I do I like the stuff that I talk about is usually really practical and meaningful, and it's like building a little toolkit of things that we can use, or our kids can. And I think something that we kind of touched on was about this concept of letting our kids feel their emotions, helping them label it and identifying it in their body, so that they are more aware and conscious about it, right? So because you know, in emotional intelligence, first step is that self-awareness, being aware of something, right, bringing it up to the surface, so that you can then think, oh, maybe I need to manage this a bit better, or I can find some coping strategies. So kind of letting and teaching our kids through modeling, you know, what we do, but also teaching them explicitly and having conversations. Like my kids and I will have the best conversations in that snuggly time just before bed, when we tuck them in
absolutely.
and we chat. And sometimes for other parents I coach, they say, actually, it's in the car because we are going somewhere and I'm not looking at them in the, like, it's not that intense interrogation, but it's like a, what's it? So it's kind of talking to our kids and help them to develop their emotional vocabulary, right? So there's a beautiful, if you even just Google the emotion wheel, you'll find a beautiful 3-layered rainbow colored emotion wheel with over 100 emotion words on it. And even us as adults, we often have happy, sad, angry, stressed,
frustrated.
So
upset is a go-to one.
So to teach our kids that
there's so much more.
There's words like I feel lonely, or actually I'm really disappointed, or I'm afraid, or what, rage, like any and all emotion. This is another one. Any and all emotions are okay. Even those really unpleasant, uncomfortable, high energy ones like rage or anger, they're okay, right? Teach your kids that that's okay. It's about how we express that. So I will say to my kids, I get it, you're so upset, you're really sad, or this has happened. I would feel that too if that happened. So that's validating their emotions. So a simple validation, it shows that empathy and understanding. And kids just want to be heard like we do. So saying, I would feel that too, buddy, I get it. And then that concept of setting limits and boundaries. So we say all emotion is okay, but you do not hit me or kick me or whatever it might be. Because setting limits and boundaries, like some parents will say to me, I don't want my kids to reject me or not to, that to be too harsh. I'm like, but we're teaching them the appropriate way, because they're going to be adults. We're raising young adults. We're not raising kids in a way. So we have to teach them what's appropriate and how to manage their big emotions. So, setting limits and boundaries shows our kids, I love you, I care about you enough that I want to keep you safe and help you grow into a good adult. So it's kind of that, keep those boundaries as well, because you're guiding your kids, and help them. The last one, I guess, is really just help them problem solve. And that's that co-regulating. Okay, you feel like this. What do you want to do about it? Do you want to do you want to keep playing or go to the party, or do you want to stay home with me today? Or give them those options of, well, what should you do about it now? What do you think? Do you want to do this or that? Give them choices and just really help them with that growth mindset. I feel like this. Here are some things I can do to feel okay, and how do I want to fix or solve the problem if I need to? So that's
so beautiful. I want to add one more thing to that. Actually, it just came up when you said that, and I want to share that as well. Another parent has actually said that to me once, and I have used it quite a few times with Jed, my little one, because he finds it a lot harder to talk about things, as in he takes a lot longer to process things. He would take things in, and the quieter he is, the deeper I know it gets. So I've really learned to sit back. It was a huge thing for me, as I said before, to sit back, give him the space that he needs to work through that. And then actually, like at nighttime, as you said, it's the same thing with my kids. They find it a lot easier at nighttime. And he's got a little teddy that he had since he was 2 years old. And often he would tell Teddy. And, I'm sitting there playing with his teddy and go like, there's a lot of whispering going on, and it's okay. It's safe with me. And another, like a mom told me that, exactly. A really beautiful friend of mine told me that one of her daughters would never talk about things. And then the hand puppet came out at bath time, and she would tell that hand puppet everything, the deepest emotions that she felt she couldn't tell her parents, because she was too worried about putting pressure on them or making them upset or whatever. But the puppet could take it all. She was, solid as. Wow. And I thought it's just beautiful just to throw out some ideas, because as we said, grief is such a heavy emotion for kids sometimes. So anything goes, whatever you can do to support your kids to help through that. One last thing I'm going to share that came up as well. We've got a little puppet that they got many, many years ago when Rob was still around, from my best friend in Austria, who I've known since we were 12 or 13. And it's called in German, a Sorgenfresser, which actually means it's eating your worries. And it's like a little puppet with a zip in the mouth. And everything he was worried about, he could write on a piece of paper and stuff it in there and zip it up. And then we would decide what we do with that when the puppet finished digesting it. So often we would let it vomit it out into the fireplace and burn it. It was like, and it was quite funny to play around with that. But he could do that at any stage. Just grab a little pen and paper and write even an emotion or something that makes him angry or whatever, and scrunch it up and put it in there, or rip it up and put it in there, and the Sorgenfresser would eat it all overnight. So
I love that. That is beautiful.
I'll actually share the link, because there's a link where you can purchase them. I think you can even buy them online. I'm not sure, but I'll have a look. If I find it where you can buy it online, you can even make one yourself, but it's just so beautiful.
Yeah,
I'll post a photo of ours.
I do, because I would like the info on that, because I know that kids are they're actually really malleable in a way. Because they're so young and their brain is not so hyper busy and critical and logical like ours, they are more open. That's why kids are more open to meditation and things like that, and visualizing, because they don't have that adult busy brain in their head. So something similar to that is a worry tree, where you can.
I would argue that with my 12-year-old. Sorry, his brain is always busy. But Sorry, the worry tree.
The worry tree is similar in that it's an exercise or an activity that I used to do with kids sometimes, and it's just a picture of a tree that they can color in and decorate, and on the branches that it's little spaces where they can write their worries, something they're a bit concerned about or something they're afraid of, and it just gets it. It's almost like it's cathartic. It's getting that out onto paper, or like they wrote with your little puppet, and just getting it out there, and then putting, the tree has it now, or the puppet has it now. They'll deal with it. Let's get it out and put it away. We don't have to worry about it now, because the tree will deal with it, or the puppet will. So it's that concept of getting your kids to talk about what they're worried or sad about, but just getting it, expressing it. It's just expressing, because otherwise it's stuck in there deep inside, just in a little ball of worry or fear. So I love that.
I'll find, either I'll find a link or I'll post a photo of ours, but it's just it was such a beautiful thing for them to have. And Flynn got his for his birthday when we were in Austria, and then 2-3 years later when we went back to Austria, I got another one for Jed as well, so he could have his own. And it was really beautiful. I think it's such a beautiful thing. And in particular, when you get a doll, a puppet, a teddy, whatever it is, into the game, it kind of gives it a bit of an outside perspective, or some third person, like an outsider that you can hand it over to, and it kind of leaves the system, if that makes sense. I really like that idea of it leaving the system if you feel it's too heavy inside and you want it out. So wow.
I love it.
Oh, Stephanie, I can't thank you enough for your time and for everything that you brought here. It's really, really beautiful. It's so lovely to have this chat with you. And I'd really love for you to share your links, everything that you will want to share that can help parents to connect with you, to maybe come to the meetup, to book a session with you, whatever you have on offer. Please, I know that I'm not really sure if you've already started that course or not, but I know that you mentioned a course. And I'm putting on a spot now.
No, that's okay. What I do is, yes, I do the private coaching with parents. So that's all. That's at any time when people want to reach out. And I do offer a free 30-minute chat to just go through some issues and see whether I can help.
Beautiful.
So that's always out there. And I do a 6-week group coaching with parents as well. So in a really small, nice little group of parents, and we meet once a week online, so from anywhere, and we go through different areas and modules of emotional intelligence with that, knowing ourselves as parents, knowing how, what our triggers are, and how we how we can help ourselves but also our kids to develop their emotional intelligence. And that just is managing those big emotions and managing challenging behaviors and helping our kids to get some of those tools for themselves. So that is so powerful. I absolutely love that. I just wrapped up one last weekend, and we're starting another one at the end of the month.
There you
So
go.
people are,
Perfect timing.
people are more than welcome to come along or ask me a little bit about that. And I do on this weekend, actually on Sunday, I'm running a masterclass for, again, it's online because of COVID, but that's a masterclass that parents can come along to and learn a bit of a deep dive intro. That's a 3-hour masterclass online. I'm going to record it because I know parents we've got kids on the weekend, they're coming in and out and they might have to leave early. So I'm going to record that for people who want to.
Please do share the link to all of that, because, you know, whoever is watching right now will be watching this back later. We have a lot of people in the US and Canada as well who might watch this later. And I know it's the same, you're still up. I can't believe that you're watching it still up. Don't know what time it is in the US right now, but anyway, don't want to get distracted thinking about this now. But I really want you to share all of that, share the links, because, you know, people will feel what speaks to them, what they want to check out. And by all means, please do reach out to Stephanie or book like this free call with her, which is a really beautiful offer that you have, that to make sure that you get the support that you need. Because in particular with grief, with loss, when you're going through something like that, it is so beautiful to have somebody like Stephanie on your team to support you through this, learning how to co-regulate emotions. And that to me is really one of the most beautiful takeaways that I have of this session today and of this interview today. So thank you so much for your time, and people, give Stephanie a couple of hours, because I know you've got a call booked in 4 minutes, so we're finishing on time. And she will share those links a little bit later. So thank you so much for coming here today and sharing your beautiful golden nuggets.
I'm more than happy, and I'm really, really grateful for you having me on and sharing, coming into your community, your beautiful community, and being able to share hopefully little bits and pieces that help them, because I know it's a long, tough journey sometimes, and I just want to share a bit of what might help. So thank you so much.
You are not alone. All of you watching, you're not alone. We've got you. So thank you so much, Stephanie. Have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Bye for now.